Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgacharya Stotra Satta Sri Simad His Divine Grace Chiraboy Charanarvini Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandibiti Founder Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samava Tabhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Rantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Janita Goda Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada.
That one is not audio is not.
Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Taksurandiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Syam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanditam Sya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tilubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesabhadreshu
Nastapayeshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttamaśloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhakti Bhavati Nanustiki.
By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama
Idam Bhagavatam Nama
Puranam Brahma Samhitam
Puranam Brahma Samhita
Uttama Charitam
Uttama Shloka Charita
Sakara Bhagavan Rishi
Chakara Bhagavan Rishi
Nishreyasaya Lokasya
Nishtasya Lokasya
Dhanyam Swasya Namaha.
Namaste Namaha.
This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Sri Advaita Gadadhara
Sri Advaita Gadadhara
Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Sarabhyai Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyai Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyai Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukham Karoti Vatalam Tvangum Nagayate Girim Yad Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataram Yad Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataram. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. Today we begin chapter, but from the same canto, Canto 11, Chapter 18, which basically continues the discussions between Lord Krishna and Uddhava on the subject matter of Varnasrama Dharma. So the title of this chapter is also Description of Varnasrama Dharma. And we will read the first text. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Vanam Didikshu Putreshu
Vanam Vidikshu Putreshu.
Bharyam Manyasya Sahaivacha
Bharyanyasya Sahaivacha.
Bharyam Manyasa Sahaivava
Bharyanyasya Sahaivava.
Vana Eva Vasat Chantas
Vana eva vasachantas.
Vana Eva Vasat Chantas
Vana eva vasachantas.
Tritiyam Bhagam Ayushah
Tritiyam Bhagamayushah.
Sri Bhagavanuvacha.
Sri Bhagavanuvacha.
Vanam vivikshu putreshu.
Vanam vivikshu putreshu.
Bharyam manyasya sahai baba.
Bharyam yasya sahai baba.
Vana eva vasat chantas.
Vana eva vasechantas.
Tritiyam bhagam ayushaha.
Tritiyam Bhagamayushah.
Sri Bhagavanuvacha.
Sri Bhagavanuvacha.
Vanam vivikshu putreshu.
Vanam vivikshu putreshu.
Bharyam manyasya sahai baba.
Bharyanasya sahai baba.
Vana eva vasat chantas.
Vana eva vasechantas.
Tritiyam bhagam ayushaha.
Tritiyam Bhagamayushah.
Sri Bhagavanuvacha.
Sri Bhagavanuvacha.
Vanam vivikshu putreshu.
Vanam vivikshu putreshu.
Ayamyasya sahai baba.
Bharyam yasya sahai baba.
Vana eva
Vana eva
vasechantas.
vasachantas.
Tritiyam bhagam ayushaha.
Tritiyam bhagam ayushaha.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha.
Sri Bhagavanuvacha.
Vanam vivikshu putreshu.
Vanam vivikshu putreshu.
Bharyam yasya sahai baba.
Bharyam yasya sahai baba.
Vana eva vasachantas.
Vana eva vasachantas.
Tritiyam Bhagamayushah.
Tritiyam bhagamayushaha. Sri Bhagavan Vacha.
Bhagavanuvacha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
Vanam,
Vanam,
the forest,
the forest,
Vivikshuhu,
Vivikshuhu,
desiring to enter,
desiring to enter,
Putreshu,
Putreshu,
among the sons,
among the sons,
Bharyam,
Bharyam,
wife,
wife,
Yasya,
Nyasya,
entrusting,
entrusting,
Saha,
Saha,
together with,
together with,
Eva,
Eva,
indeed,
indeed,
Va,
Va,
or
or
Vane,
Vane,
in the forest,
in the forest,
Eva,
Eva,
certainly,
certainly,
Vaset,
Vaset,
one should dwell, Shanta,
Chantaha,
with a peaceful mind,
with a peaceful mind,
Tritiyam,
Tritiyam,
the third,
the third,
Bhagam,
Bhagam,
division,
division,
Ayushaha,
Ayusha,
of life.
of life.
Life is divided into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Most people don't know that. So everything is very systematically arranged. Let's read here the translation and purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who desires to adopt the third order of life, Vanaprastha, should enter the forest with a peaceful mind, leaving his wife with his mature sons, or else taking her along with him. Kind of repeat after me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead
The Supreme Personality of Godhead
said,
one
who desires to adopt
who desires to adopt
the third order of life,
the third order of life,
Vanaprastha,
Vanaprastha,
should enter the forest
should enter the forest
with a peaceful mind,
with a peaceful mind,
leaving his wife
leaving his wife
with his mature son.
with his mature sons.
Oh, with his mature sons. Yeah, not only one son. Or else
Or else
taking her
taking her
along with him.
along with him.
Purport. In Kali Yuga,
In Kali,
a human being generally cannot live more than 100 years. And even this is becoming most unusual. A man who has a reasonable expectation of life, a man who has a reasonable expectation of living for 100 years may adopt the Vanaprastha order at the age of 50, and then at the age of 75, he may take sannyas for complete renunciation. Since in Kali Yuga very few people live for 100 years, one should adjust the schedule accordingly. Vanaprastha is intended as a gradual transition from materialistic family life to the stage of complete renunciation. Translation again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the one who desires to adopt the third order of life, Vanaprastha, should enter the forest with a peaceful mind, leaving his wife with his mature sons, or else taking her along with him. So this entire chapter 18 of the 11th canto, entitled Description of Varnasrama Dharma, will especially be dealing with these two ashramas, Vanaprastha ashram and Sannyas ashram. So there will be various details given by the Lord Krishna as to how one should go about, what is the purpose, and the meaning of Vanaprastha life. So here we are just in the very beginning of the presentation on the subject matter. What is, of course, as devotees, we know something about Vanaprastha. In the early days of our movement, we knew very little about Vanaprastha because everyone was very young, and the only elderly person had already gone through Vanaprastha, that was Prabhupada, and he had become a sannyasi. So that is one, we could say, lacking, maybe even a weakness on our part, in that we were those who joined in the early days. We didn't have this example of someone who is Vanaprastha. We read about it, but we had very little understanding. Vedic culture is, as we see, very systematically organized, systematically divided in 4 very specific stages of life. Actually, it's divided into 8 stages of life. We have studied those when hearing from Narada Muni. The first level is called the Varna. That's what the whole system is called, Varna and Asrama, Varnasrama. The 4 social divisions, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and then the 4 spiritual. It refers to as 4 spiritual divisions of life. It means that actually from birth until the end of one's life, there are spiritual divisions that one is meant to take up for the purpose of advancing or progressing in spiritual life. So Vanaprastha is actually a very important stage of life. In the secular world, there is a, what's it called? What we call in mid-age life.
Midlife crisis.
Yeah. They call it middle life crisis. Many people, when they reach the age of approximately 50,
and now is much before that.
Well, yeah, and now it used to be 50, but now even after 30, or definitely by 40, you start noticing that, hey, I'm not as strong as I was before. I can't digest as well as I used to digest, and I can't see as clearly, and especially I can't have sex life as I used to. That's the main concern for most people, actually, because modern civilization is simply a focus on sense gratification, the topmost attraction being sex life, actually. So it's a total opposite to what Vedic culture is teaching us. And that's why most people who've never heard about the Vedic culture, when they initially start hearing about it, it's like shocking. It's a complete reverse, practically speaking, of what we have been taught in modern day society, secular world, materialistic life, etc. So Vedic culture teaches that before entering householder life, one is supposed to understand that this is only for a few years, and then this vanaprastha stage. So it's quite interesting how, if we look at this, let's say, period of time, which is, of course, for most people, it is not there. I mean, 100 years, nobody lives. Very few, very few people live 100 years. 6 o'clock, huh? Very few people live 100 years. And so we see actually by this, the beginning of this description, that 50%, 50% of one's life is meant for renunciation, isn't it?
Even
Actually, 75.
Yeah, because in married life is just around 20-25.
Yeah, correct. Actually, because the first 25 years, more or less, are brahmacharya life. So you add this brahmacharya life of 25 years to the other 50 years of vanaprastha and sannyas, you have 75 years, if somebody lives up to 75. That means the majority of one's life, and also, as we will read, in householder life, which is the shortest, period of what is it? Authorized, but regulated sense gratification. It's also, tapasya is not forgotten. Discipline. We will read briefly about those who are in householder life. They have to follow various rules and regulations. Hare Krishna. Doesn't look like any
He
problem.
writes it's like slower. They write faster.
That younger generation. Energy. Yes. So we totally, as a society, have missed out on vanaprastha, and therefore, although obviously now the majority of Prabhupada disciples are in the age of vanaprastha, but not so many actually have taken vanaprastha in the way that it is. Here it's recommended, for example, that one should go to the forest. Of course, in modern day society, we don't have any forest. We've destroyed, like in America, 95% of the forest is no longer there, isn't it? Deforestation is a major global problem, which is having all kinds of ecological negative effects, of course. The forest in the Vedic culture, forests are very, very important. I mean, when we think about Vrindavan is the forest of Vrinda, the Vana. And there's a nice book that was written by, I forget his name now, one Prabhupada disciple who spent many years in India, specifically spent many years in Braj, and he wrote a book about the different forests of Vrindavan. A few devotees actually, Prabhupada disciples, wrote about the importance of forests. And of course, amongst the many reasons why forests, they're very interesting actually, because one of my godbrothers in England, another one, wrote a book called mm, uh, in reference to Vedic forests also. I forget the title of that book. His name is Ranshore Prabhu. Like all of us who joined in the early days, he's now elderly, and he gives occasional. He wrote a very nice book actually, and in that book, because he spent quite a bit of time also in India, and he came to study the different types of forests. Forest is like most people don't really know that different forests have different purposes. Some forests, for example, are just for sadhus. It has a particular name. Yeah. Some forests are just for sadhus. Some forests are only for animals, for wild animals. So if you go there, you go at your own risk, kind of. Of course, forests for sadhus, the kshatriyas, the kings, they used to make sure that the sadhus would not be overly disturbed by wild animals and whatnot. And then there's forests for I forget now, but 3 or 4 different specific forests. Yeah, nowadays, for example, what has become popular is called what they call food forests, because actually in forests, so much. I mean, when Lord Ramachandra and Sita and Lakshman, when they went to the forest, they were living off. Yeah, one can live off if one knows. If one knows, it's just like nowadays, because we have become so disconnected with nature, we don't even know, myself included, for example, the names of different trees. I mean, we know what a banana tree is and the main trees, but we don't know our herbs and our trees and whatnot.
We may end up taking some poisonous.
Yeah, right. Yeah, actually, in Nibri, we had one tree in front of the temple, which we didn't know at the time was it was giving poisonous fruit. And we had one visitor once who happened to like fruits, and he took one, and I think he almost died. I forget if he died or not, but I mean, he practically came to yeah, one needs to know his trees and herbs and fruits and whatnot. So that these common people would have so much knowledge, and of course there were specialists who this is called ahimsa medicine. We talk about ahimsa milk, but actually ahimsa milk is only one of many aspects of the Vedic culture. There's ahimsa. Now we are introducing also within our IDVM, one of our devotees, Ananta Tirtha Prabhu, is reviving ahimsa cloth. Most of us are not wearing, most people nowadays, including most devotees, are not wearing ahimsa cloth. And what happens when we don't take ahimsa milk, when we don't take ahimsa food, which means natural, or when we don't wear ahimsa cloth, or when we don't live in a building that is not ahimsa building. This building is not ahimsa building. And most of us are also not taking ahimsa medicine, isn't it? We're taking, here in India, English medicine. which is full of very poisonous elements that are cause of so many diseases, etc., like that. So, so vanaprastha, coming back to this particular stage of life, vanaprastha in modern day society, coming back to middle age crisis, people, are about to retire from their job, and when people actually do retire, many of them they can't adjust to that because they've been active for so many years, and they'll either take up some job again or want to continue or whatever. Isn't it? They can't. Ordinary people, they can't sit still for 5 minutes. They have to be busy, physically busy, and mentally also. But being busy physically and mentally is all connected with Maya, unfortunately. So vanaprastha, I mean, this whole chapter, I guess half of the chapter, because these are the two main topics that will be covered here: vanaprastha ashram and sannyas ashram. Vanaprastha, one is recommended actually to retire, as we know, within that age range, at the age of 50, when the body is still, having some vitality, when one can still do things. And actually, there are specific activities which one can take up. Of course, the main goal or the main purpose of vanaprastha is to actually cut out for those, because most people who will take vanaprastha are householders. And depending how they have lived their householder life, if they have been actually, as recommended in the Shastra, regulated in their householder life, then for them to take vanaprastha will not be a problem. At least will not be a major problem, because they will have been disciplined as householders. And especially that will have been more easily accomplished if they have received Gurukul training, isn't it? Yeah. So in Vanaprastha, the primary goal and objective is actually to just strive for spiritual advancement, to become more and more detached, more and more renounced. But at the same time, one needs to take up certain activities, which very often, for example, people who take vanaprastha, they will, Hare Krishna, go from one, you're really becoming absorbed. They will either go from one, we see that when we visit some holy place, we see a couple, very often dressed in saffron. It's interesting to see Matajis dressed in saffron. Husband and wife, you can identify the real, like vanaprasthas. They'll have a small bag, cloth, not a suitcase. They'll have the traditional, very, very few possessions, practically no possessions. And they very often they will be bare feet also, traveling, because India is that ideal place where one can spend a whole life going from one tirtha to another, from one holy place to another. And they will just, by visiting the holy places, every holy place has a whole history that we can read from Shastra, or that people who are living in those places, they have so many stories to share and to tell. So they will become, in this way, absorbed. Just like when devotees come here in Sri Ramayapur during Gaur Purnima time, there's a whole 1 week for, Gaur Mandal Parikrama, where one hears about all of the wonderful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his associates. So similar thing, of course, in Vrindavan. These are, especially for us as Vaishnavas, the most important and attractive. Of course, Jagannath Puri as well. But India has, I don't know, I mean, unlimited practically holy places where the Lord in different incarnations has performed so many pastimes. So those in Vanaprastha, it's like here it mentions how one should go to the forest or go to some holy place with a peaceful mind. It's like a big relief. We were just talking the other day. His daughter is yet to be married, so definitely, within the next few years, he will become a mukta jiva. One will become, because that is one of the most important duties and responsibilities for householders, to get their sons, especially their daughters. Son is like different; they can manage on their own, but the daughter needs to get married, and before one takes to Vanaprastha. And it's like if one has entered householder life, then one has so many responsibilities, and therefore, especially in terms of the children, right? Married life means having children, and until they are grown up and are mature and taken care of, especially the girls, then once that is done, then the husband and wife, they can become kind of relaxed in terms of having fulfilled their responsibility, and they can fully, completely concentrate on. It's a wonderful, it's a wonderful system, actually. And what is wonderful is, even more wonderful, is that one doesn't have to go into householder life. It's too late for you. But for those who are fortunate to hear about the whole spectrum of Vedic culture and its purpose, etc., like that, one can save that time and the various. Prabhupada would often quote, and I don't know the Sanskrit, a short quote, which basically means that the word bahu is there, that upon entering householder life, bahu masala, that there's so many problems, there are so many challenges, so many unexpected things. Not only do we have to deal with us, with our own individual mind, but we have another mind to look after. We have another, and as many children as we have, as many.
Every time I meet, don't get.
Yes, many of my godbrothers will say the same thing also. The best years of my life is when I was a brahmachari living in a temple, isn't it? But of course, as devotees, we have a big advantage over someone who's not a devotee. We have the basic knowledge. Of course, simply having knowledge doesn't solve all the problems. In that, Maya is there, the challenges are there, etc., like that. But we have what is needed to actually confront or deal with whatever situation may come in life, especially as a householder. It's like, sometimes people think, oh yeah, okay, husband and wife will get married, we'll have nice children. Well, your children are not always going to be nice. Your children are not always going to be healthy. Sometimes you get a child that is either crippled or will need a lot of medical attention, and your whole life is practically, focused on, and then that costs more money, and so many things actually. Huh? Gurukula
is necessary. That's
it. Well, yeah, but you see, Gurukula, as we have discussed before, will only be for a small percentage of children, isn't it? So that means that actually it means that the majority of parents will be stuck, in a sense, stuck. I mean, should not look at it in a negative way, but we have to be realistic and understand that when there are children, and when those children will be with you, and that as a parent you need to be responsible until they are grown up and are able to look after themselves. That's a lot of heavy responsibility. But of course, for devotee, we take that up, and